Hello and welcome back to my channel. I'm Alison. I write as Alison May, Juliet Bell, 50% of Juliet Bell, and most recently as Ali Sinclair. And this week's video is just going to be a bit of an update, a bit of a chat about what is going on in Alison writing world. I'm going to talk about a couple of kind of writing issues that arise out of that. So the first news is that today my brand new book, The Christmas Season, went up for request on NetGalley. For those of you who aren't familiar, NetGalley is an online platform where reviewers, bookstagrammers, booktalkers, I feel there must be a book community on Facebook, but logically that would be book Facebookers or book bookers, book facers, Facebook bookers, those people, YouTube book reviewers, all of those people can request copies of upcoming titles for review. Usually the publisher asks that they also put their reviews onto selling sites and or Goodreads as well as on their own platforms. But it's a really good way of getting books to reviewers and getting reviews up early when a book comes out. So if you are someone who reviews, even if you only review on the selling sites, if you would like to head over to NetGalley, the Christmas Season is available to request right now. I will put a little blurb down below in the video information, so if you are interested in requesting it, please do. Why does that matter to authors? Well, primarily it matters because having reviews on selling sites really matters to authors. And secondly, it matters because having people talking about your book on social media is word of mouth, and word of mouth is the single best way to sell copies of a book. You might have written the best book in the world, but if people don't know about it, you're not going to sell any copies. So having those early reviews, those people talking about the book online, is really important for building up your word of mouth. And also having reviews on selling sites feeds the algorithms on those sites. It says to the algorithms on those sites that this book is popular, this book is something that people are already interested in, and if you get reviews over a certain number, over 50, over 100, over 500, that starts to boost your visibility on the selling sites, because the algorithms on those sites go, oh, people are interested in this book, I will show this book to more people. And the more people your book is shown to, the more people have the opportunity to purchase your book. Visibility is so important to authors. Realistically, there are now millions of books out there. Ebooks have caused an absolute explosion in the availability of titles. They've removed a lot of the barriers to people getting published, which is brilliant, and that's been really democratising, and it has really helped people from historically disadvantaged groups, people whose voices have been underrepresented in mainstream fiction, have had the chance to get their books out there, which are brilliant things. But because there is so much out there, it is now really difficult to stand out and get attention on your book. So getting those numbers of reviews that feed the algorithms that make those book selling sites go, oh, this is a book that people are interested in, I will show this book to more people because they might be interested in it, is so valuable, so that you can get to that point where readers start to see your book, readers who haven't heard of you, who aren't familiar with you from other channels, start to see your book and hopefully buy your book, and then your word of mouth tentacles spread outwards and outwards, hopefully. And that is the benefit of getting those early reviews from NetGalley reviewers. So that's why publishers do that. From a reader's point of view, it means that you get to read the book before anyone else for free, and the bargain on your side is that you will give a review of the book. So the kind of etiquette is that you don't go on NetGalley and request mountains of books that you're not going to have time to read. Life gets in the way sometimes. Sometimes you don't get to review on publication day. These things happen. We understand that. But don't just use it as a free book site. There is a kind of implied agreement there that yes, we're going to give you this book at no cost ahead of publication date. And the flip side is that we would like you to share your review, and we would like you to help us build the word of mouth for that book in return. So that's happening with the Christmas season right now up on NetGalley for people to request. Writing wise, it's been a bit of a weird few weeks. In addition to writing, I also tutor for a university in the UK, and I run my own writing, mentoring and courses and editing services. And at the moment, I'm writing a book that isn't under contract. I'm writing a book on spec, hopefully to be ready to send out on submission in the autumn. But because that is on spec, I don't have a firm deadline associated with it. And what that means is that it is really, really easy to put the book on the back burner when other things get busy. And over the last couple of weeks, both of these other things have been really, really busy. So it is examination time of year in higher education. And more to the point, it is examination marking time of year in higher education. So that's a really busy period, naturally. But then secondly, under my own business, I've recently joined together with two brilliant writer friends and writing tutors, Janet Gover, who I've worked with an awful lot before. We run weekend retreats together. We have written novels together. The two Juliet Bell novels were co-written with Janet Gover. So Janet Gover and now Jeevani Charaka, and the three of us have come together to form a new group called Fiction Tutors, where we work together to provide courses, mentoring services, manuscript critiques, all of those things. And as well as setting up that website and launching that new brand, we have also just launched our debut author club, our Fiction Tutors debut author club. And this came about because all three of us have been published for around about 10 years plus now. I think I've been published for 9.5 years, and I'm the baby of the group. Jeev and Janet have both been published for a little bit longer than me. And all three of us were thinking about how difficult it is for debut authors coming into this industry, coming into publishing. And there is so much that you just don't think about and you just don't talk about before you sign your first contract, before you sign your first agency deal, before your first book is published. Because the goal is to find an agent to get published, or to get your book out there, to sign a deal with a publisher. That's the focus. That's been the goal for so long. That what happens after that is a bit of a grey area. And sometimes we don't kind of fully understand, or we don't know what to expect when we get into that situation where, okay, we've signed a contract, now what? And that first year or couple of years after publication or after signing your first contract can be incredibly stressful. How does publicity work with a mainstream publisher? How does the editing process work? How on earth do you fit in writing book 2 alongside editing and promoting book 1? What do you do if you realise you're not going to meet a deadline on a contract? What happens when the personnel in your publisher change? You signed with one editor who you absolutely loved, she leaves, someone else comes along. How do you cope with that? How do you set about doing your own publicity and your promotion? How should you be using social media? Should you have an email newsletter? Should you be doing video content? Should you still be blogging? Should you be pitching articles places? Should someone else be doing that for you? All of that stuff. Do you want to have a book launch? How do you plan a book launch? Do you want a virtual book launch? Do you want a physical book launch? All of those things that you suddenly find yourself having to deal with. You've got to the point of, oh, I've signed a contract, I've achieved my goal, and then suddenly discover that there's a whole load of road beyond that, and some of it probably isn't even road, it's just sort of dirt track, and there's a bit over there that looks like it's actually literally jungle. And how do you navigate all of that? So what we've just set up is the Debut Author Club, which is a subscription club essentially designed to support and mentor and advise through all of those things. Each month within the club, we're gonna be having a monthly focus. This month, for our very first month, while we're testing the group and getting it set up, Our focus is going to be on newsletters, and then when we launch fully on July the 1st, we'll be having a focus on working with an editor. But alongside that, we're going to be doing regular Facebook Lives within the group where you can ask us anything. You can post at any time with questions, with things that might come up. We'll be sending out newsletters. There's lots of different things going to be going on to help people who are in that position, having just signed a contract, just being on that kind of first rung of the publishing ladder, navigate their way through that early part of the process. So we're setting all of that up, which is brilliant and exciting, but there's a lot of work going on. I'm marking exams, which is brilliant, and it's great reading students' work, but also it's a lot of work. And then also I'm trying to write my own novel. And this is what I kind of just want to focus on for a couple of minutes, because sometimes it's really difficult to keep all of the plates spinning. And right now, my kind of writing goal for this week, although I have a spreadsheet that says I'm supposed to write like 8,000 words this week, that is not going to happen. I'm going to have to revise that word count spreadsheet because it just isn't going to happen. This week, this particular week, all my goal is realistically is to touch the book every day, to do something on the book every day. So like today, I think I did about 400 words. I did about half an hour first thing this morning before breakfast. That's terrible for me. 400 words is not good. Normally I would expect to do 10 times that if I was having a writing day, but today isn't a writing day. Today is a just getting stuff done day on these other responsibilities. So this week it is enough if I keep in touch with the novel, and some weeks are like that, and that's okay. So that's kind of where I am at the moment. Those are my kind of current thoughts and experiences of being a working writer. Because we have come to the end of May, start of June now, it's also book review week. I haven't read that much this month for all of those reasons I just said. It's been a really, really busy few weeks. But I have got 2 books that I thought were really interesting and want to recommend. The first is the final revival of Opal and Nev, which is by Donnie Walton, and came out in 2021, I think, possibly 2022, I think 2021. This is a really fun novel. So this was a book club pick that one of my book club friends picked, and I really enjoyed this. It's set around a revival of a kind of slightly punky, slightly off the wall music act called Opal and Nev, and it centres around kind of 2 timelines. So there's the story of how Opal and Nev kind of get together, start working together, their relationship leading up to a kind of really dramatic and traumatic event that happens while they're on stage together. And then we also have a kind of current timeline where someone is writing a book about Opal, and Opal and Nev are preparing for a sort of a comeback revival tour. And it's a really fascinating story. It's fascinating looking at women within the music industry, black women particularly, and black people within the music industry, through the kind of 70s, 80s, 90s through to today. It's a really smart and engaging story. For me, I think there's one kind of layer to the narrative more than it needs, but overall I thought this was a really interesting read, and I would definitely very highly recommend it. And the second book that I want to recommend this month is this one. This is, just hold it so the sun isn't on it, there we go, Joe Tracini, 10 Things I Hate About Me. Apologies if I'm garbling his surname. 10 Things I Hate About Me. Some of you will have come across this guy already on Instagram, Twitter, etc. During lockdown he made some rather fabulous dance videos in this leotard which were completely hysterical, and he also makes videos and social media content about mental health, and specifically borderline personality disorder. And this book breaks down the experience of living with borderline personality disorder, and is just really smart and honest and funny about mental health. There's a lot said at the moment about, oh, we need to talk more about mental health, it's good to talk, and a lot of the time that tends to focus on, for want of a better way of expressing it, the sort of polite end of mental health problems, anxiety, depression, stress, all of which are really severe. And I've suffered from anxiety. I know that can be really severe, and can really affect people's lives and quality of life. But somehow they've become the kind of acceptable elements of mental health to talk about. Whereas this book discusses very severe, very acute mental health problems. It discusses borderline personality disorder, but also addiction in various different forms, and how that can be linked to mental health. It does, I'll give a warning to anyone thinking about reading it, it does discuss suicide quite extensively, and the author does say right at the start of the book, if you are currently in a mental place where that would not be healthy for you to read about, step away from this book and maybe come back to it later if you feel able, because it does discuss suicide, and it does it in a really honest, warm, truthful sort of way. It sounds odd to say that I really enjoyed reading a book about suicide, but I really enjoyed reading this book. It's very funny, it's kind of brutal and kind of sad in places as well, but it is also really funny too, and that's kind of life, brutal, sad in places, also really funny. So those are my two book recommendations for this month. Bit of a scattered video this time, bit of just a catch up on where I am and what I'm doing. I will be back next week on Friday, where I think I'm going to be talking about not planning. At least that's the plan. It could change, because as you might guess, I am not really a planner. If you have enjoyed this video and you want to see more content about writing, publishing and all things related, please do subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you get notifications when there are new videos, and I will see you next time.